I talk about when I had all of you on the show, and then I decided not to do a marker. And I think there's several mistakes I've made in my life, I'll be honest with them, but that was probably right up there, because I think I actually, yeah, you get mentioned, because we're talking very quickly about recording things that have happened that have gone wrong, and one of them was, when I was recording for the Staying In Boys, one of them said, "You want to do a marker?" And I went, "No, it'll be fine."
I don't need
honestly,
markers.
Honestly, oh my word. I tell you what, last time I actually had you on as an individual by yourself, I think you were possibly moving. Or just, you weren't too long about before you were about to move. Yeah.
I had just moved, I think, maybe.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Or just before moving, possibly.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because then you were like, yeah, that was weird, because then Chris was on by himself, and then I got Chris on with Tim Fowers.
Wow, just like, I know, that was great.
Tim was just, I don't know, Tim was like, I'm inviting somebody else along. Who is it? It's a guy. That's all you need to know. He loves your stuff. Okay, that's fine then.
And also, the great thing about that podcast is how ill Chris is.
I know.
And you can just hear the voice of a man who really wants to enjoy the experience, but can't.
It does. He's not. I've always thought there should be a second thing where we have like, this is sick Chris, and now we have super, super excited and well Chris.
Yeah.
Kind of like the other side, but yeah, Tim was a decent guy. I've just right, let's do a marker, because this is what happens. We can talk for 15 minutes, and then we go, better.
See, you're worried about we've got nothing to talk about, but
yeah, messed up there. Right. Perfect, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
You should go into studio work or something like that.
You should make it your life's work.
You should do that. In fact, out of everyone, are you the person that's closest to have done something with your degree along the lines of what your degree was connected to? Or is that
That's Chris, considering he has a doctorate. He teaches drama and he studied it.
I know, but, well, there you go. That's the failure there, isn't it? I just, messed that one up.
I'm probably having the most fun with a degree.
Yeah, probably. So Pete seems to be having more fun. I did listen to that last episode, and I was absolutely wetting myself, because I was painting at the time, and I was like cutting in. Yeah. So I was right up the corner, and I was trying, you try and do a straight line. So I was trying to do that.
I hate cutting in.
I hate cutting in. Cutting in's one of those things. He says, "I'll tell you what, I'll get as small a brush as possible to do cutting in." And then you realise that doing as small as brush as possible when you're cutting in just makes a mess. You end up with a wiggly line unless you got a ruler or masking tape. I couldn't use masking tape because it was on the coving, and it would have stripped some of the paint that I just painted off the other week. And so I was like doing my straight line. I'm quite proud of myself. And then Dan was he was talking about the results for the kind of who got closest round everybody's house running thing.
Oh yeah.
And he just goes, and Pete being wonderful, Pete going, I was third. And in fourth place with 60 miles.
Bless him.
It was obviously one of those things where it sounded to me like Dan had taken it really, really seriously, because he said, "Well, I'll go out for a run later and I'll be done."
Yeah,
just a little bit mild.
Well, you wait till because we just recorded our not really Christmas special, but kind of, because we wanted to keep to a strict schedule, so the next one's going to be out on the 1st.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be the one where we open up our gifts to each other and kind of, mention it, all that kind of stuff. But there is a big surprise on that show about that challenge, and possibly the funniest thing that Pete has ever done is also part of it. And yeah, so just make sure you're not painting or coving.
I will just, no, I can't wait. I don't know. I said this before, I sometimes think that either Pete is like Claudius, Emperor Claudius, who is just He's just making everybody pretend that he's completely kind of like not connected at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Alexander Hamilton, and and I was listening. I was just like, and he just comes out with the random things. He goes, like a pop star, like Madonna, and you're just like, what? And I think he's either putting it on like I Claudius, and then he's going to wait until everybody's looking the other way, and he's just going to take over the world. Yeah, with his pop history and stuff like that. Anyway, I suppose I better do an intro. 5 minutes in, we're going pretty good.
Yeah, we're doing well.
I could do a pretend staying in one. I've got like a glass.
Oh, so can you make me some more Foley stuff? Because I keep on, like, the stuff that you made last time was brilliant. Just this is the main reason I'm coming back on, just so you'll do more Foley work for.
I don't know. Okay. Right. Okay. Ready? Are you ready? This is going to be. Board games we've played. Stuff we've read. And Sam Turner from Staying In. This is We're Not Wizards. Do you like that?
I think that's incredible. I mean, in the new year, we're hoping to do some of our Foley work again. Because if you listen to the podcast, the whole idea of the podcast is that we're just people staying in. It's very original.
It's fantastic.
Throughout the podcast, how we split it up is the process of making and then drinking a cup of tea. That's the idea. And so we're going to be redoing those sound effects at some point in the new year. And I've had to try really hard to find myself a kettle that has that satisfying click.
Russell Hobbs are always good. I think you need an older one.
Who's he?
Yeah, he's got a really good kettle. I don't know. That sort of nicked my last one.
I just don't know why you can't do it. Why?
Oh my goodness, it's a make a kettle. But no, I think I did, because every time you've been on, I've actually stood near a kettle and recorded it kind of clicking off, so I get the kind of the sound. Anyway, it doesn't matter. People are going to be, because, I'm at this point now where we open proceedings and we just talk, and then there might be an intro, there might not be an intro, but it is kind of Christmas time, I guess. Mm-hmm. Is it kind of Christmas? It is kind of marching on. It is
very much Christmas time.
It is very, very much kind of Christmas time. So I thought, I didn't think anything. I think you kind of said, shall we get together and have a chat? And it's always good to have you on.
Thank you.
Which is always fun. For people who are listening at home and people are going, what is going on? Have you been drinking? Are you enjoying the season? It's like, yes, I am. I've got some 7-Up. And you know what? I've been a little bit cheeky and I've put some diluting juice in it as well. So there goes my teeth.
Some diluting juice? Oh, some squash.
Diluting juice.
No, hang on.
No, hang on. Right, okay.
Hang on. Right, okay.
Let's park this for a second. Hello, welcome to We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight is the man with a plan. He's the king of diluting juice. Sometimes he goes out, sometimes he stays in with him and his pals, and they play board games and they chat all about comics and geeky stuff and just general brilliance. Because joining me is Mr. Sam Turner. Hello. Hello, Mr. Sam Turner. Right, anyway, get back to you. I've done the intro now, so we can just continue cracking on. Squash. No, it's not.
It's squash.
It's not.
Okay, what can we agree one thing that it isn't is juice?
Well, technically, the stuff that I'm drinking does contain actual fruit juice, so technically, but this is a Scottish thing, because I know that Scottish people call juice for anything that is a sweet drink, basically.
Okay.
That it contains.
I lived in Scotland for 3 years. I never encountered.
It's diluting juice.
It's just squash.
How's it squash? Where'd you get squash from? I mean, it's not like it's written. No. It's not like it's written on the side of the bottles or anything like that, isn't it?
I know.
Robinson's called it squash.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe it's just one of those marketing things like tannoy and jacuzzi.
Hoover.
Yeah, it's just squash.
Just come in. There's a whole thing about it. Of course, there's always been the kind of like, what do you have for your evening meal? Is it dinner or is it tea? It depends where you are. Besides, anyway, we're not here to talk about colloquialisms. I don't even know what that is in some words. It's been a while since we spoke board games. Well, it's been a while since we caught up. But I noticed that on the podcast you were talking. You continually kind of talk about things like. Well, Pete was talking about Transformers.
Yeah. Oh,
and
he
was
the
also
new card game. Yeah.
And he was also talking about Keyforge.
Oh, yes. Yes. Should we talk about Keyforge?
Let's talk about Keyforge because I must say that I was one of the lucky people that got right, okay, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. There's a wonderful person at the club that I go to whose name he's called Andrew, and he's wonderful, fantastic human being, and he's the type of person that he just goes out and buys things. And he saw Keyforge was there, and what he saw, he knew it was going to be selling out, so he went online and he bought like several copies of Keyforge. And then
the starter?
Yeah, the starter one.
Oh,
and then he came along to the club and he basically said, look, I want to play this game. Yes, you can get a deck by itself, but the best thing for you to do is here's a starter set, because you get your tokens, you get your keys, you get your power cards, you get your you get your power cards and things like that, yeah. So here you go. So he just like split a box up between a couple of us and just gave a couple of us kind of random packs and some of us the tokens. So he's a wonderful, wonderful human
that's
being.
Really nice.
And it is really kind of really, really nice. I've played it quite a few times. But I mean, how's your experience been with it, kind of so far?
I like it. I'm liking it more and more every time I play it. And I think I struggled with it when I first started to play it, because with every other like LCG game that I've had, I know Keyforge isn't an LCG, but it comes from that kind of environment, that kind of genus, I guess. Like, you know, when I first played Magic, I was just like, well, I want to go and get more decks now. I want to experience more of what it's got to offer. And when I played Netrunner, it's like, I really want to buy more expansions and see what more of that world has to offer. And then there's Keyforge, and you play it, and I was playing it. I was like, oh, this is quite a fun game. This is really interesting. And my initial reaction was exactly the same to when I played Magic and Netrunner and things like that. It's like, oh, I want to buy more decks now. I want to try and experience more of what the game is. And I really thank myself a bit for holding back on that initial sort of rush of adrenaline, because having held back from buying more decks, I think I've grown to appreciate the game a lot more, because you realise that there's no rush to go out and buy new decks. There's no advantage in going out to buy other decks because they're unique. Like you buy a deck and it might be brilliant, it might not. It might be better than someone else's, it might not, but it will always be unique. So really, there's no way that you're going to get ahead from buying tons and tons of decks.
Yeah.
So really, it's all about learning the decks that you've got at the moment and trying to use the mechanics that are in them to make the most out of them. And for me, that's an interesting prospect and something I've not really had in a game before. Maybe other than something like Star Realms, I guess.
Yes.
But in a bit more of a concentrated diluting squash or diluting juice version. But basically what I'm saying is, like, I think that prospect of sitting down with a deck and having to learn it and know it and be aware of how it works and what is actually inside it and unlocking that potential within it, like that for me is the fun of Keyforge. and that's why I'm really liking it the more and more I play, because the more I play, the more I understand the decks that I'm playing with, and then each time I'm playing against someone, I go, well, I remember to do that this time and play that card with that card, and I recognise when to do combos and get sequences of cards out into the play area at the right time, and it's just such a satisfying experience that I haven't had the urge to really go out and get a new deck yet, because I'm still learning the two that I got in the starter deck.
Do you want a really bad analogy?
Go for it. Love them.
Okay. Keyforge is like walking into a guy's clothes shop, and you walk up to the counter and you ask for an outfit, and the guy goes to the back and he just picks 5 random things, puts them on the counter and gives you them.
Do you think so?
Then, pretty much. And then you have to deal with the outfit that you've been given. Things like Magic, Yeah. Magic is a case that when you're outside the shop, you can look at all the fashions and all the mannequins, and you can see what the trends are and what everybody's kind of wearing this season. And you can go in, and if you need that hat or you need that jacket or you need those trousers, you can just go ahead and you can buy it. And that generated a trend that basically for a while, especially in Magic, is everybody's looking like they're wearing the same outfit. There's occasionally a different hat, there's an occasional different shoes, but once everybody knows what the fashion for the season was, everybody's wearing exactly the same thing. What I kind of like about Keyforge, and I've got issues about it, and I'll go into that and down the line, but what I like about Keyforge is the fact that everything is unique, and you'll come out with like a set of flippers, some Bermuda shorts, a tuxedo jacket, a baseball cap that goes on backwards, and a cravat. And you're just going to have to wear that, son. You're just going to have to deal with that stuff. Or you might come out with like a mini skirt, a set of Doc Martens, a slide for your hair. And you're just going to have to rock that the best that you can. And that's what I kind of like about Keyforge, is that it must have baked so many people's noodles when they went, oh, this is a money sink, because in order to, if I want to get anything better, I'm going to have to go out and buy another deck. And it's like, yes, but still then, you cannot guarantee you're going to get a good deck, which to me, that's amazing.
That's what I felt. That was my initial, it was, oh, this deck's good, but I bet there are better decks out there, so I'll just go and buy more decks, rather than what I think Richard Garfield wants you to do is to learn the deck. And if you know what your deck is capable of and how it works and how it can respond to different playstyles and different houses within the game, then I think you will be just as competitive as a good deck. Because I've only had sort of 2 sort of gaming experiences with it and played with a unique deck each time, and I've not felt like I've been steamrolled by a particular deck yet. I've not felt it's at all imbalanced in the way that the algorithm has sort of treated me at the moment. But
yeah, I think they've managed, because of the way that they're doing the cards, and because they've not decided to go for many factions, that they've always been able to kind of manage that. So there is always, there are always going to be some kind of cards that that you're going to play. I mean, the deck I'm currently playing with has got some absolutely what you would call fantastic cards in it, and you lay it down and you think, yeah, I'm definitely gonna take it. But I'm still, I don't know about you, but I was in the mindset for a while that if I had, say, 5 Broadener cards or whatever, or 5 Hunter cards or whatever, that I would play all of those cards as opposed to playing other cards from my hand, just because it's like, oh, look, there's all of these, so I better play all of these rather than just a couple,
Yeah. I think, but the game forces you to make those kinds of decisions, which is why another great thing where it breaks away from that mold of Magic and Netrunner, I guess, is that there is no cost to playing cards, other than they've all got to be from the house that you pick at the start of your turn.
Mm-hmm.
But that forces you to make those kinds of decisions. This is like, well, I can get all of these cards down in this turn, but I know this deck now. I know how this works. If I can just put a couple of these down first, that might give me a bit more of a solid base going forward into the game, which is completely sort of the inverse to Magic, which is a game of sort of overt strength. Like, the more creatures you can put down quicker, the better chance you've got of winning, because you've got that overt strength on the board. Yeah. Whereas in Keyforge, you're holding, and this is some of the criticism I've heard about it, is because you're sort of holding everything in your hand, and you're sort of plotting 2 or 3 turns ahead, because you don't have to worry about whether all the right trees and lands and volcanoes are going to turn up to let you bloody do anything like in Magic.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of it is a lot of someone else's turn is just you sitting there trying to work out silently what you can do 2 or 3 turns ahead based on like the houses that you pick. But again, I like that, and I think that's just a change of mindset. It's just a change of habit when playing a card game. I think games like Magic have just been ingrained so thoroughly within. Well, not you because you don't play it, but for me.
I must admit, see, to this day, I have blissfully escaped the entrapment of Magic. I do have a deck, and it sits there, and it just sits there. It just sits there. It doesn't have to do anything. Occasionally, I will take out a card and I will flick it across the room in mild disdain. But I've never.
So, as someone who's never played it, because obviously, for me, the interest in Keyforge is from a position of Richard Garfield pretty much making a game which goes against everything that is integral to the design of Magic the Gathering. There's no mana system. It's not a pay to win construct. You're not collecting cards. You're not building decks. So for me, that's where the interest comes from. Is learning. It's seeing a game that not only breaks the design rules of Magic, but also learning as a player to break those rules when I play. So for you, what's your sort of early impressions of Keyforge been? Because you don't have those histrionics. So
do you know
embedded.
Do you know what annoyed me? The lack of rules. I mean, what?
The starter set.
Fantasy Flight for ages have been a champion of rules, and they've kind of served the whole rule thing quite well. With kind of like, here's a beginner. As you're a beginner, this is what you play. You want to get into this. This is how you press the buttons. This is how you get involved. This is how you kind of play. And then they've had the expanded rules, which has been copied across a couple of places. You know, I've seen it. Root did it. I've got ding ding mentioned Root in the episode. Hello, but I sat there and went, "Oh, here's a brief explanation," and then it seems to be, "Oh, we're going to push you online, kids. I know you're not sure, but here you're going to get pushed online, and then we're going to push you online even further by saying, okay, you're going to have to register your deck." And so that kind of grated with me, because if I'm going to be playing an analog game, I don't really want to be sitting there with my phone kind of checking rules, because once it's out and once it's there, it's too easy to say, "Oh, just check the rules here and check the rules there," and I like to be able to kind of do that. I
agree with you. I agree with you from it's a strange move coming from Fantasy Flight as well, because they Chris and I, another one of the hosts on the Staying podcast, are working our way through the Arkham Horror card game. Mm-hmm. You know, the LCG of that. Yeah. And because we kind of play it like months on and months off, like we have so much time away from the game, Fantasy Flight just have a fantastic, just that glossary book of terms. Just so whenever we come across something, it's super easy just to go flick through that. Oh, right, that's how this works. We're back in the game. And to not have that in a starter set of Keyforge is, yeah. Well, what I said on the podcast, I know it's kind of recycling material here, is that I think, well, I just don't know who that starter set is for, because if you're the kind of person who knows about Keyforge and wants to get on board right from the start, you don't need the starter set, because you probably have enough tokens lying around from other games to create your own pool of tokens, and you probably have the resources to just get that rule book and print it out and do whatever you want from it. So I just don't know who that initial starter set is for, really. I don't know who
the cards were for. No. I think maybe there must have been an executive decision made to say, we want tokens, we want recognizable property for the game, because down the line it allows us to luxuriate them and, luxuriate them, luxify them, upgrade them, do whatever we want to do. I don't think the teaching deck was needed, because the other thing is as well is the teaching deck doesn't teach you.
Well, I think in their defense, I think what the teaching deck does is that, at least for your first game, it gives a balanced view of what Keyforge is.
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
They wouldn't be able to guarantee that they just bung in 2 random decks, and then one person has a deck which just naturally overpowers the other one, and then suddenly you've got quite a bitter first exposure of Keyforge.
Yeah, but I guess on the other side of it, though, there's very little explanation as to archiving stuff and bringing it back into the game. I was kind of expecting I know they've got kind of like what the powers are and stuff like that, as in, the power up cards you can put on people. I was kind of expecting them to even have like a kind of a quick reference card.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of surprised. Yeah. I was kind of surprised at that they had a specific card for the characters, and obviously the 2 decks, the starter decks that you get, they're good fun. And I played a few games with my son, and he absolutely destroyed me. And I felt a couple of the cards on there were just a bit, okay, that's a bit OP. I don't know why that is, but at the same time, there wasn't really anything to help you understand kind of archiving. There wasn't really anything to understand for a starter deck. There didn't seem to be anything to help you understand chaining.
No, there's nothing I've not had a deck yet which allows me to do anything with chaining.
See, my deck I've got just now has got chaining in it. Because it's got like one of these powerful cards that just says, do you know what I mean? It's like, set fire to the table in front of you. Yeah. And then you put 5 chains on, and you're like, yep, you're all gonna die. But then, that's you. You're then reduced to the number of ticks. But there isn't, and there wasn't, it was like one of those awkward moments where you're sitting across from the person that you're playing, and he was saying, are you sure chaining works? I was like, I'm not I don't know anything at all. So we turned to Andrew, who's been playing it, and he says, Andrew, could you explain chaining? And it's still, he was kind of, yes, he knew exactly what he was talking about, but I was thinking, if he wasn't sitting there, what am I meant to do? Am I meant to go through it's stopping a game as opposed to just saying, here's your reference and thing, and that was it. Don't understand the size of the box. The trench thing just really...
That's just a typical Fantasy Flight thing.
Because there's somebody that sits in a board meeting and just, they're called Trench Guy or something, because every guy, it's like, oh, let's hope Trench Guy doesn't come to the meeting, and he sits there in the corner, and, and everybody's going through the box designs and everything like that, and you can just see him, like, pushes his version of the Keyforge box on the table, and he goes, we've got to have a trench. Gotta have a trench. Don't get it.
No, it's the same with Arkham Horror. We've had to, because we bought so many expansions now. We've had to get rid of that inner trench lining just to fit everything in. The same with Cosmic Encounter. That's just a storage box now. I've got rid of all the trenches that came with because it just no room. And it's the same. Well. What else? I got rid of it because I'm just like, well, So for my Keyforge deck, I've repurposed an old like fat box from Magic. You won't know about this because you don't play it, but you can get like fat boxes, which is like sort of side-loading card boxes. So you can just put all the cards in there with dividers. Because what they expect me to do with the cards is like throw them loose into that big box after I finish with them, or wrap them up in
bag of them up.
Elastic bands.
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, I know. But it's just like people going to conventions, just like with like medicinal bags of Keyforge cards. Like, just looks. I just think that there could have been more of an elegant solution. Like, you know, the pack that you get your Keyforge deck in. Maybe that could have, rather than having to be ripped open all the time, maybe that could have been turned inside out to actually make like a proper deck box to keep your deck in that you could then personalize or at least name. You know, it feels like with the starter deck, again, I just don't know who it's for, and it just feels like there's lots of bad decisions that have gone into that design.
Maybe it was cheap decisions. I mean, I'm not being funny, but it's probably, I mean, it sounds strange, but it's probably, there's been some costing exercises that have taken place with that. And you got to understand that Fantasy Flight are taking a massive risk with this, whichever way you look at it. Obviously, they invested in the technology. They've had the print and play technology for, you know, well, I don't mean print and play, print on demand rather. They've had that technology for a while. So for certain games, when you ordered it, you know, they didn't have it in stock. They just printed it for you kind of there and then, which was kind of cool. And I reckon this was a massive gamble on their part. So there was I think they sealed the boxes because they didn't want somebody sitting around going through the boxes, which is why they decided to glue them shut as opposed to using a top box.
See, yeah.
So you didn't have people kind of going through and saying, oh yeah, you know, I don't want that one, or I want a really, you know, I want a really kind of rude one. What's your take on the kind of the dodgy names? Do you think
shall I get my two decks? Hang on, I'll share the names. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
If not, at least one of them isn't called kind of like Bumface. I'm going to be sorely disappointed. So we'll see. So he comes. You can hear him. He's untucking the boxes now. He's going into his drawers. He's a man on a mission. He's got them.
My box here.
I was just filling in for you, Turner. You're fine.
Okay, so the first deck is called... It's called Power Bit, the Major Domo of the facility.
Domo? It's in
but Major Domo is all one word, so Major Domo.
Right, okay.
And Nesting House, the Seemingly Spiky.
I can't remember what mine's called. I'm going to get mine. Mine's are just over here. Where's my box gone? I'm just going to get it, like... It's interesting to have people walking away from the microphone. It's covered of joy. Oh my goodness. Oh, you're making those involuntary noises when I'm getting out the seat. Do you ever do that now? You kind of get up and you go, oh! And you go, who is that?
I find that it's not because I'm aching, it's just to let people know that I'm still here, you know.
I am the typical old man, you know. It's just like one of those, I kind of get up and stretch back and go, no! You know, I find myself calling, you know, having a nice piece of meat or something and commentating on it, or, you know, at the end of the meal, passing some kind of judgment and just, in general, just saying something, oh, that was a lovely bit of pork, wasn't it? Kind of like, you know, and it's just like, when did I start doing that?
I know, one of the things that we reference quite a lot is when I was first dating my fiancée, we went out for a meal with her family, and there was just a break in conversation, and I'd noticed just like a salt spreader going back past in the window of the thing, and completely out of nowhere, I went, "Oh, gritters are out." Just as completely like the most middle-aged thing I've ever said. Just for no apparent reason, just like, "Oh,
just
gritters are out."
That's what they looked at me. And, he's a keeper. He appreciates the joy of road safety. Do you hear the most boring name? Or because the Keyforge, it's Derus Garden Tutor.
Okay.
I'm going to leave a gap there for silence because so obviously we can mourn how rubbish this was. But then on the other side of it, as I was saying, my original point is, do you think there was a marketing meeting where somebody says, let's just keep the rude names in because we need to get a bit of publicity?
Well, I'm just looking now at some unfortunate Keyforge names that people have posted online, like Cliffmon, the organ scholar of the forest. Yeah. There's the villain that digs up porridge.
That's brilliant.
General Bone Rider cult. And I think the one that made the most headlines was Titan Flayer, the farmer of racism. Now, I don't know if that's been photoshopped or not, because why, as Fantasy Flight, would you put racism in the list of words, like Regitail Fjord, sophomore, like the survivor who grimaces at politics, like what?
And there's no way. That's not that. That's question time. That's what that is. And joining us tonight, we've got the survivor who grimaces at politics. It's that kind of thing. That's a nonsense. The thing with this, right, is I've got my Keyforge deck in my hands, Mr. Turner, and it's in one of those plastic lock bags that you have. So I've got all my tokens and my 3 keys, and then I've got my stun cards.
Yeah.
And I've got my power cards, and that's all I need, and the whole thing fits in a rather kind of small.
Exactly.
And that's it. That's all you need to take with you. It's kind of ridiculous. But then on the other side of it, have you seen Discover, the other game that was just procedurally generated?
Yeah, and I've not heard such positive things about that. And I wonder whether that's because it's more of a traditional board game. And I think that when you're... I think it's a testament to board game design that it needs to be... I don't think you can rely on procedurally generating stuff to create a solid board game, whereas a card game is a little bit different, because a card game, a lot of how the card game works is player input, whereas a board game, it's the relationship is a bit of the other way around. It's what the board game gives to the player that makes a game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that a procedurally generated board game would always need to have something strong at the backbone behind it, and therefore could never be procedurally generated, kind of thing. Yeah. I think if you're only changing kind of the content, you can't take random elements. You can't take random elements and add them in a board game and expect them to work.
Well, it's like from what I've seen of it, it's like they randomly generated the wrong bits. So how I understand it is that certain story elements are randomly generated, or certain cards or items you get within it. Is that right?
Do you know what? It's kind of like, it's really strange, because it is one of these things that I'm like you. I've kind of not looked at it. I've heard too many people. I heard Dan Hughes from Sporadically Bored talk about it, and Mike Delisio again kind of talking about it, and they were just saying that if you get the wrong stuff, you're kind of stuck with the wrong stuff, because you kind of start off with kind of like different kind of environments, and if you get something you don't like, then it automatically, I think it kind of would wane your enthusiasm. I think the thing about Keyforge in its ridiculousness is it is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
In terms of, you've got aliens versus some kind of bull-shaped bear monster ogre type things, and you've got a mixture of fairies and elves and everything like that. So at its core, when you look at it, it looks absolutely it looks like you've said to like a 7-year-old kid, go and design a card game, and they've come back with all the designs in the world, and they've said, well, aliens would be cool, and boars would be cool, and bears would be cool, and giants would be cool, and then elves would be cool.
Knights.
And yeah, let's put all that together, and you and me playing games like this for a while would have sat there and went, this is nonsense, I'll never take off. Where they've just went, well, we don't care. And I think that's baking the noodle of a lot of folk that like the lore.
Okay. Because the lore is something that I've not even... I don't care.
I don't think it matters, does it?
No. But that procedurally generated thing is quite interesting because there are a couple of board games where that actually really works. And I think that's where they procedurally generate the right stuff, that they leave the core rules of the game untouched, but procedurally generate it, allow you to procedurally generate parts of the game in order to keep it fresh as a player. So, for example, Burgle Brothers by Tim Flowers has an app where you can procedurally generate where so if you've not played Burgle Brothers before, it's a heist game, a cooperative heist game, where each time you play, you lay out random tiles on a grid, and on those tiles define where like the safes are, the laser rooms, the traps and the computer rooms, all that kind of stuff is. And also where the walls go in between those rooms. So there's an app which allows you to procedurally generate where those walls will go in order to create certain play styles, like make it harder for you as a player or make it slightly easier in terms of the configuration of where the patterns of the walls are. And then also Chris and I have been playing Cryptid by Osprey Games recently, and that also has an app which allows you to procedurally generate how the map system is laid out. So Cryptid is a hidden movement game where no one knows where the hidden object is. Like there's no overseer who is like trying to hide from all the players. And what will happen is each player gets a certain rule of where this imaginary cryptid is. So like, for example, the cryptid is in water or is one space to the left of a certain coloured structure. And as you play, you slowly work out what are the rules the players are working towards, and then you build that picture in your head, and then you can finally figure out where the cryptid is on what specific square. So, as well as a big, large rule book that has all that information in it, there's also an app that procedurally generates that all for you, generates all the clues for all the players. So, there's an endless possibilities with that game, and it just feels like if you're going to do randomization in a board game, if you're going to do make it try and feel unique, I just don't think you can touch any of the core mechanics of what makes that game great. You just have to build a game that allows you to allow it to regenerate again and again and again, and be flexible in kind of its play state rather than how it plays, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the common thing with both of those games is that they've got an app, which I don't know if Discover, as far as I'm aware, there isn't an app for Discover. So I think you're playing with whatever.
I think all the random stuff just comes
out the box,
yep.
And we'll see. I hope people give it a chance, though. I'm kind of worried that all it takes is like a couple of key people just to say, this is going to be rubbish, we don't want to play it. And then that'll be it. It'll be dying a death, and the next thing you know, it'll be $23.99 on Amazon, like Seafall is.
But do we need it? Like, do we need a unique board game? Is it just a way of selling a board game? Because surely the way that I've gotten into the hobby is someone playing a game and going, oh, this is brilliant, let me show you it. this is how it plays, these are mechanics. You can buy this off the shelf and you can have that experience at home. Whereas when you've got something like this, it's just like, oh, brilliant, I had a great time with it. You could buy it off the shelf, but it might not be, in fact, it might not be anything like you've just played. So that's a 20, 30 quid gamble.
Yeah, I think for some people it's just too much. And also at the end of the day, isn't every board game kind of like a new experience, considering like there's a lot of chase of the new, search for the shiny, get stuff to the table. And I know a lot more people are like, they're playing a game sometimes for the sake of playing a game because they know they've spent money on it. So it's like, unless you're going out and you're playing a game like 3-4 times, a lot of the games, it's nothing. Discover isn't that exciting or that new because people might not bring it to the table again for the second and third time anyway. So what's kind of unusual about it? I'll just need to see. I know that the problem with, I've seen it with legacy games, and I mentioned $23.99. The reason I mentioned $23.99 is because that's the current price of Seafall on Amazon. Wow. And I'm thinking, I remember when that was 70 quid.
I saw Seafall for sale during Black Monday for 15 quid.
I would have got it just to see what it was like, just to see what was so bad. Seafall is one of these things that if somebody got me a copy of Seafall, I would say thank you very much. I would actually be very happy that I got a copy of Seafall because I wouldn't have paid for it. But on the other side, I'm intrigued to know kind of what kind of went. Why is it so bad? What kind of happened with it? What kind of went wrong with it? Because I remember it coming out and people saying, right, yeah, this is the next big thing. I think Plaid Hat Games, published it, and it was it Rob Davio's kind of. I think he was involved, and he just came away from it saying, actually, to be perfectly honest, it probably was maybe 75% of the way there for the way I wanted it to be, but it was new. We were just learning. We had no idea what we were doing, and I'm just wondering if people seem to be looking for the next big thing to sell games, and you don't need the next big thing to sell games.
No,
because games are doing fine without the next big thing to sell games.
Yeah,
there's hundreds of board games getting released. They don't need a USP. They just need to be bloody good fun.
Good. Because everyone thought that legacy was going to be the big thing to sell games. It's just not happened. Like, Pandemic came out and set the world alight, quite rightly so. But again, the reason why Pandemic Legacy did really well is the same reason every board game does really well. It was based upon a really solid set of mechanics that worked, and it just iterated off that. And that. Which is why Pandemic Legacy Season 2 wasn't reviewed probably in the broadest spectrum as well as the first one, because they changed the formula of how Pandemic worked. And so with legacy games, there's never been that kind of game that they found to turn into a legacy version that has been as solid as Pandemic was. I guess the one that I've been most interested in recently is the legacy version of Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Yeah, I've seen people talk about that, but I've seen people talk about it with a little bit of not concern, but reserve on whether or not they should be picking it up, because I think legacy was excitement, and then legacy games that have come out have not fulfilled. I mean, Charterstone, I was mad daft to get Charterstone, and I will get it at some point. But it comes down to the same thing. I need to make sure that I'm sitting around with the same person for the next 8 times or 10 times or 12 times or 20 times that we play.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of commitment, considering that, again, every couple of weeks, one of us might get sent a board game or get a new one in, or get an old one through the sale, or somebody just might dust something off the corner, off the shelf and say, let's play this instead. So I think one of the things that's maybe against legacy games is the commitment side of things, because I know a lot of folk have said, I kind of got through 4 rounds of Charterstone then. we ended up playing something else for a change, and then we kind of never went back. So I think there's that kind of thing. I still want to play it.
I think there's something in Betrayal Legacy that interests me, because I think in a intriguing way, I think it fixes many of the problems that I have with the base version of Betrayal at the House on the Hill. So what I've heard about it is that it has an ancestry so the legacy elements of it are based in ancestry. So each game you play, you are playing the descendants of the people who you played before, investigating the house. Have you played Betrayal at the House on the Hill?
No, I haven't. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm a terrible, terrible human being. That I find I actually end up talking about people who play board games more than I end up kind of playing them.
You know how it works, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
So each time you play with your group of players, you're playing as the descendants of the people exploring this house, and so already that embellishes for me and makes Betrayal at the House on the Hill a better game, because immediately you've got a lot of, you're not just playing as Ox Bellows again, you're playing as Ox Bellows the third, the third person in this generation to investigate this haunted house, like what you're going to find in it. And then that legacy element of being an ancestor goes down into the items. So in your game, you could discover an item, you name it, and then that goes into your family line, and then one of your descendants can then discover that item later on through their playthrough. So that for me also makes the things like items and artifacts within the game a lot more appealing, because I don't think they are now in the base game of Betrayal. And what that also does is it means that you don't necessarily have to play with the same people every time that you play it as a legacy game, because the people who you're playing with essentially set up the legacy of the house. Like, the legacy is held within the boundaries of the house, which means anyone can essentially pop up and visit the house and walk around, and they just set up a new line of descendants. It doesn't matter that Auntie Joan isn't playing every single time, because it just might be narratively that her descendants finally figured out that every time one of them goes up to this haunted house, they die, and then they never come back.
Have you got an Auntie Joan, Sam?
No, I don't.
Just wondered where you plucked that from.
I don't know where I got that from. And then the other thing it solves is, for me, is it makes death doesn't feel like such a punishment as it does currently in Betrayal, because it's my number one pet peeve of any board game is player elimination.
Oh yeah.
And in Betrayal especially, it can feel like a death sentence, quite literally, because you could be spending like half an hour just waiting there for the other characters to go through their turn.
Just get a cup of tea up the back.
One of the times we played it, because your movement around the house is defined by the speed of your character in like an RPG sort of system.
Yeah.
And one of my mates was already quite slow, like his movement was like 2, and he was playing an old man. And on his first move, he discovered the chute into the cellar. And when you drop into the cellar via the chute, you lose 1 speed. So he went from like 2 to 1, so he could only move and discover a new room like once on his turn. And to get out of the cellar, basically, to get out of the cellar, you have to find the door. You have to draw the door from the pile or the stairwell to get you back up. So he spent the whole game just stuck in the cellar, like wandering around, whilst we were like having this mad haunted adventure in the top. And then he eventually died, and he was just like, "Well, I can't do anything."
Just down the bottom, going, "This is rubbish."
Yeah.
So guess I'll draw a card then.
Yeah. So for me, like, out of all the legacy games since pandemic, Betrayal Legacy has felt like the most intriguing, and I think what's interesting about that is that, again, it's Rob Davio is part of it, and he was actually brought on at the end of Betrayal's actual design phase to iron out a few things and try and shore lots of things up. So he's actually been involved a bit like with Pandemic. He's been involved with a lot of the initial design process before he actually went on to make the Legacy one. So I think maybe that's why he's been able to make more of a leap with it as a product.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of games I kind of want to check out, and there's games that's kind of like on the list. And as I say, I've always wanted to dive into a kind of a legacy game. And if you're saying to me that you can play the game, change the game, but then don't necessarily have to come back to the game again in order, you can kind of pick it up at any point because there's always kind of like a recap. You're just changing the scenery as opposed to kind of changing the mechanics. And I think that's one of the things that always that's again kind of like going back to Charterstone. You're building up the game from absolutely nothing in terms of mechanics up to something which is building your own version of a game. So you can't kind of come in halfway through and try and pick it up, or you can try, but it'd be quite difficult. As I say, if anybody wants to send me a copy of Seafall, do that, because I'd be quite happy to kind of do that anyway. So it'd be all kind of fun. The
other thing about Betrayal Legacy is that once the game finishes, that's your house to then play on with. Like you've created your house, you've created the artifacts, you've created the items that then go into your game onwards. So you're essentially building all the backstory for the game, and then you're left with Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
That's pretty cool. That's definitely cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're looking at in terms of games? I mean, obviously we've just spoken kind of legacy. We've spoken about procedurally generated games. Is there? He says. Is there like a new thing, a niche thing, a different way of playing board games that we're missing, is there so many games out there that people don't want to just take the risk? They want to have something that they can understand and play quite quickly, and is time becoming bad? I mean, this is coming from, I'm actually finding it really difficult to keep up with what people are saying is the next big thing.
Yeah.
Be that kind of like a Kickstarter or the next kind of release. I completely missed X-Wing Wave 2. I just, I made a conscious decision. I still got my X-Wing. I'm going to play with that if it means that we can still kind of bring it out and that's fun. I still got Armada sitting there, which I completely love to bits. And again, I'm going to kind of bring that out now and again, and it's all going to kind of be fun. I feel, even with me speaking to lots of people in the industry, speaking to people that are doing Kickstarters and stuff like that, I feel I'm missing stuff. I'm just finding it hard to kind of keep up with a hobby, and I'm wondering if we're kind of accelerating at such a fast rate that we're maybe getting too much product going out there.
I agree with you, and I feel like as a board game buyer, I felt like I accelerated a bit too fast initially when I was sort of building my collection. And now I feel like I've got too much. So that already puts me off when I'm looking at other things. I'm always looking at things with an excuse not to get it, and the excuse is usually, well, I've already got a game that plays a bit like that. So why do I need this other game? Like, I really wanted to get Flamme Rouge, but I already had K2, and that's a racing game.
Yeah.
And when you're limited for space and not necessarily budget, but for a lot of people, budget is a big issue. It's a tough sell when it's just kind of like, well, I've got this one racing game which is climbing up a mountain, but now I've got this other racing game which is going around a peloton in a French cycling race.
Yeah.
And for me, the way I think about my board games now, and this will be my approach going into the new year, is that I'd rather slim down my collection to a good core set of games that I'm always getting out and I'm always playing than have the big, broad selection of games that I've got now and spend half my time wondering, well, I could play that or play this, and then have I got a game that does that, and I've got a game that suits that mechanic. And so the whole acceleration in terms of the product that's on the market now, I find that also really off-putting, because I'm at a point in my collection that I'm already thinking I need to slim down, I need to get on top of it. I need to think about the games I actually play, the games I want to keep on playing, and probably once I've cut it down, then I'll think about, other games to buy and other experiences to have. But I've still got tons that I've just not even touched that I really want to, play and play and play. And I feel like just getting more is getting in the way of playing the stuff that I've already got.
It's a danger of becoming video game-ish.
Yeah.
I got my mum asked me what I wanted for my birthday. So I said, and she says, we'll do your birthday and Christmas combined. So she says, I'll just give you some money towards something. I got a 2 terabyte drive for 2 reasons. One of them is I wanted to back up all of the podcast files, just to make sure I've got everything. And secondly, once I'd done that, exactly, it was just resting in my account. But the second reason was that I was determined to kind of download some games onto my PlayStation 4 for easy access. And I went into my PlayStation collection. Now, I used to review games, so this is a number I'm not necessarily proud about, but it's also a number that I can put my hand on my heart and say there's a lot there that I didn't actually reach into my pocket to pay for. But there's 223 games on my PlayStation download list. Now, there's a big difference. Now, if you've got that mindset, and if you say, well, I managed to play some of them for kind of like even 2 hours each, that's still 400 odd hours you've got to put in to give everything a kind of an introductory pass. I mean, if you're saying 5 hours to give it an actual kind of considering your first thoughts, that's 2,000 odd hours, And I'm worried about the board games kind of going the same way, that you end up with a lot of people, 2 sides of things, chasing stuff to have it, but not actually having stuff and enjoying it. And I think that's where we could potentially be with a hobby, that people are just you're only going to end up with the games that can shout the loudest getting the attention.
It's such a strange hobby, because I think that it is a bit similar to video games, but it's a bit different because, again, you'll just be playing those games on your own. So if you want to dip into one of your 200 games for 20 minutes, you can do.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to get a new game out in front of people, that's something you've got to sell to those people, and that's something you've got to teach to those people. And if it doesn't succeed, then that's a box that you've got to live with until you can sell it. And selling games is not really the easiest thing to do. It could be for some people, but I found it really difficult. Like I got rid of some of my games recently, and I tried to sell them, and I just couldn't get rid of them. No one just wanted them, and so I just took them to a charity shop. Now, I don't mind, because I feel like I got from those games what I bought, what I spent money on them for. I feel like I got that money and more back from them in terms of the time I spent with them, the experiences that I've had. But for some people, they probably wouldn't get that ratio right. So I think with board games, it's a strange ecosystem. And then there's the other thing where, so me and Chris, like, we play 2-player games with each other a lot. Like, he's probably the person I play games with a lot, and we kind of will have like a 2-player game that we play constantly throughout the year. So at the moment we're playing Memoir 44. And we've been playing that for like the last 18 months. Every time we get together, we do a campaign. We get into the end of the campaigns that's in the books. And so now we're looking for, what's going to be our next like big 2-player game. Will it be Pandemic Legacy Season 2? Or would it be something like V Commandos, which we've been looking at, which looks like stupid, dumb sort of commando fun. And if they want to use that slogan, then they can for free.
Copyright Sam Turner, 2018.
But the nature of board games and the industry that it is that it's most likely going to be that game is not going to be available by the time we come around to go and play it, because unless you're right at the gate when a game is first released or made or kickstarted or whatever, then you've not got a hope in hell of getting on board with the games that you want. So, and this is, I know we're kind of both getting on our soapbox about what's the problems with this brilliant industry with all these wonderful games that they make, is that the only way to truly enjoy it is to spend money and to get them and to get the games as soon as they're released, just in case one of them is that magical hit that everyone's going to want to be getting hold of and playing, and it'll never be printed again. So
yeah, it's like a long tail. You can't get a long tail on a lot of board games.
No,
it's like, and if you want to get them back in, you're either paying a ridiculous price, or you're waiting for a reprint that could be ever. I mean, like, video games, it's really the opposite. It's like Sony's got a Christmas sale on. So this weekend, they were selling Spider-Man, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and something else for like 30 quid.
Mm-hmm.
And then in January or February...
Spider-Man?
I didn't.
Oh.
I had to step back because I've got 200 games to play. Because I did sit there and I went, do you know what, I could get this and I could have a lot of fun, or I could go back and I re-downloaded Mad Max, and there's something exceptionally zen statey about that game that you can just, because everything is kind of like driving for miles across absolute desolate waste. If you can just point yourself in a direction and just, you occasionally come across bad guys, but once you've cleared out enough areas, there's entire areas you can just drive around, and it's beautiful, and it looks like a stunningly lovely, clear of anything type of game. I'm tempted with Spider-Man. I've had a lot of folk that are just saying, Spider-Man's amazing, you got to get it. I've also heard people saying Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the best, is using the Assassin's Creed name the best way possible, and they're now pushing the modern technology thing to say, no, it's okay, we forgot about this bit in this game. You're just going to be playing as an assassin. So I've heard some really, really good, fantastic things about that. I probably will pick up Spider-Man. It'll probably be in about 6 months when it drops in at like something like 19 quid, and I'll go and I'll just grab it.
Get the Game of the Year edition with all the DLC.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then on that side of things, as I was saying, I want that, but that would be really, really nice to say. On the other side of it, and I keep dropping this into conversation randomly, even when I'm going to buy milk at the shop, is I'd really like to play Heroes of Land, Air and Sea. I think it's Gamelin Games that do that, and the chances of getting a hold of that game is like never, because there's been, it's the Kickstarter's been around and it's come around, and then they did a second reprint with an expansion, and I just didn't have the cash at the time to warrant buying it, and now I just can't go on to a store and search for it. Well, it's available, but it's upwards of like 80 quid, and I just you'd have to sell stuff. So it's a different kind of space. I don't know where I'm going with this point. I probably missed the point. I thought, I'm like, I'm the guy that's got like 2 bars on the petrol, and he sees the services are in a mile, or the services are in another 35 miles, and I'm looking at it and going, I think we can make 35 miles. But anyway, so that's the danger that we're, but I don't know. It's still very, very exciting. The problem is it's like, I'm missing out on so much at the moment. You kind of feel, I'm a real gamer, because you see people kind of backing and backing and backing on Kickstarter. I just picked this, I just got this, I'm just playing this. But the people that only seem to be playing the games or all the time seem to be the guys that are doing all the videos and the playthroughs and stuff like that. You know? Which is kind of interesting.
It's difficult, and I think that I think what we're all trying to say is that, like, it's very difficult to keep on board with, like, what is going on in the industry, and I think part of what my approach is going to be in 2019 is I'm still going to be, you know, very much keeping abreast of what happens and, you know, keeping my eye on reviews, but I'm in a place now where, and it's the same with actually my, you know, getting comic books and stuff like that, that I'm in a place where I'm really trying to streamline the things that I'm buying and that I'm engaging with and trying to get the most out of what I've already got. And I feel like I'll benefit a lot more from that as an experience. And if the right game comes along, then yeah, I might get it, but it really has to be the right game now. Before, I was just picking up games left, right, and centre, but now it's got to be the right sort of thing for me sort of drop any sort of money on it. Really,
yeah. It's the time investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. We'll see. I'm still excited though. You know, there's still the stuff that's coming out. There's still stuff I've got to play. You know, it's like I played Root. Ding ding. Like, kind of like 4 or 5 games kind of like in quick succession, because it's really, you know, if you're talking about kind of a game that has base rules that then can change based on the factions that you play, that's the game that you're looking for, of so much replayability in that kind of game. It's absolutely fascinating. It's really good. I'm just interested to see what happens and what games do the distance. What games are still being talked about 6 months down the line? What games people are kind of referring to? Because I see a lot of games coming out and then disappearing, but then there's games that seem to kind of continue to keep being talked about, and those are the interesting ones. So we'll see. Gloomhaven, for instance.
Yeah, you see that is like, when that first came out, it's like the big thing was just like, oh, it's like a £200 game and it's massive and it's in a big box and it's Kickstarter and all this kind of stuff. And now the dust has settled from it and it's had a couple of reprints, and it's like me and Chris turned to each other and we're just like, you know what? It just sounds like an actually really decent, like, 2-player game. Like, it sounds like something that we would really like to play, and but that's what I mean about the long tail, is that, like, I'm really interested in still picking up Flamme Rouge because people are still speaking about it and people are still talking about it, and you know, they're still enjoying out of it, and that's what I want from a game. I don't want to just pick it up and go, oh, that was an interesting mechanic, I'm done with this now. Mm-hmm. Move on to the next thing. So, but then there's hardly any long tails, so getting hold of the games can be quite difficult.
Yeah, it's all the excitement of Kickstarter and the hype and stuff like that, and then, as I say, people get the games, and it's like, oh, did you see that game? Yeah, everybody's giving it rave reviews. It's absolutely brilliant. Where'd you get it from? Oh, nah, you can't. It's just like, what?
But that's what I kind of like about when I'm getting games now. For me, I'm much more eager, and this is more a space thing than anything else, is getting up like smaller games. And the last few games I bought were just small box games like Gantron Clever, Welcome to, Keyforge, which I ended up putting in a smaller box, The Mind, a lot of the big hitters that were mentioned at the end of this year, I guess. But the reason that I picked them up was that, you know, they're small boxes, so they're a pretty reasonable price. I don't really have to worry about storing them, and I'm more willing to take a risk on getting stuff like that than I am buying a big box or something for 50, 60 quid. And then I'm stuck with it.
I know.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on something that I finished
Go on.
reading the other day.
Reading?
Yeah.
Reading?
Yeah. Batman Metal.
Okay.
And because it was on...
It's taken you a long time to read that.
I kind of had everything except the last kind of... I think the last kind of 2 books I kind of... Do you know what? I'd started reading White Knight.
Oh,
and
yes.
Then, which we kind of mentioned... I think we talked about, like, the last time the 4 of you were on. And so I read that and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And then I fell down an Agents of Asgard kind of trip. And then I fell in love with My Life as a Weapon.
Yes.
Hawkeye. And I read that as well. And
what did I send you in that care package?
Swamp Thing, which I've started. And what else?
Oh, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I Zombie. And also... Sex Criminals as well. But then I went down a line of like reading started reading Miss Marvel and Saga, and there was also as I say Loki Agents of Asgard, and yes I am pronouncing it like that. And then I realised that I was kind of like I got so lost in Batman Metal, and it wasn't that good. The ending, it was just a bit like, I don't want to go back and explain Batman, but it's basically about, I can't explain it. It's just about like metal Batman. There's been whole bits of metal through Batman, and then it's caused this big bad guy to appear, and then all these Batmen from other places and dimensions, the dark side of Batman appear, and they all fight, and then it looks like the bad guys are totally dominating, and then obviously the good guys have to win because that's what they have to do. But it's tiring, Sam. I mean, wow, talk about not being able to kind of get to a point. It's like it's like I wrote the books, really. It's like I got to the end and they went, well, how do we finish it? And it was like Bobby in the shower at Dallas. Oh, it was all a dream. It was like Lost. Oh, they were all dead. Spoilers for Lost. But it was kind of like that. I kind of expected more, and it completely confused me. And I remember you were excited about it, and then I kind of read it, and now I was disappointed. And I'm not having a go at you. I'm just saying it was kind of like a bit of a disappointing kind of comic I didn't get at the end, and it was just like.
I think your experience with it mirrors my own. Really, we're very excited at the start. I think some of the work, character work that Snyder puts into it at the start, especially with like all the different versions of Batman that he created, the dark multiverse versions of him, was so strong that's what kind of drove the early sort of sections of the comic through. So much so that Batman: The Man Who Laughs is getting his own 6-issue series now. Started.
Yeah, I saw that. Started
on the 12th.
Yeah.
But basically then it turned into a Grant Morrison comic, and I'm not the biggest Grant Morrison fan, and started talking about interdimensional ships and
just yawn, and here's a little ape guy, and
like
I
went to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse the other day.
I heard it's amazing.
It's incredible. And one of the things about it is that it makes you realise what is great about comic books and why they're such a good medium in terms of like communicating ideas and story and kind of getting messages across. And you kind of see a film like that, and for me it kind of reaffirmed what it is I love about comics. And then you go in and read something like Metal, especially the last editions of it, and it just feels like such a drudge, like such like heavy lifting that the reader has to do, that really you shouldn't have to do when you read a comic. I don't feel. I think there's something wrong in either the art or the story if you feel like you're having to do a lot of work with a comic book. Like, a comic book should feel effortless. I'm not saying that it shouldn't make you think, or it shouldn't challenge you as a reader, but I think when the art and the writing are married up so well, like, it should feel like an effortless adventure, like a roller coaster that you're going on as a reader. And the last few editions of Metal really don't feel like that at all.
Do you know what it felt like? It felt like I had ordered the most delicious chicken, bacon, salad. Somebody
You're sitting there in your Bermuda shorts and your flip-flops and your...
my flip-flops, my baseball cap. Right. So somebody, right, I'd ordered the most delicious salad, and then they'd put the celery in, so I'd eaten everything. And I was like, oh yeah, this was nice. And then I realised that in order to get out of the place, I had to finish off the celery. So I then had to eat through 9 spoonfuls of celery in order to get through the very end and get my free dessert. And oh my word, it was like you kind of felt every chew. I don't know. And then going back to like White Knight, as I say, that was effortless.
Yeah,
that was amazing. There was parts of that where I don't know if you finished that, didn't you?
Yeah.
It was absolutely fantastic. It was kind of like, oh, I'm having a little bit of it's a little bit of apple juice here, and then I'm getting a nice little bit of orange spritzer, and then somebody's finishing off some lemonade, and I can keep dancing, and this is just fun. And then it just finished at the end, and you're just like that, whoa, whoa, and then that was just absolutely fantastic. It was brilliant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was really, really good. It was really, really good. Finishing off.
Go on.
Because I know we've kind of like gone. Do you know what? I just like these chats. We need to talk more often.
We do need to talk more often.
You got stuff in your wish list for Christmas then? Are you getting... I mean, I know that obviously there's certain things occurring in your life, potential life-changing, joyous things. But, I mean, are you still, being a person that enjoys his games and his board games and his comic media, is there something that's on the Christmas list that you would like?
I'm just looking at my Amazon wish list now, and I've got some things in my comic book wish list. I know you mentioned Saga before. Now, I got a lovely gift once from one of my co-conspirators, Dan. It's a big sort of volume compendium of Saga, and it's a big, like, thick, like several inches, like feels like a proper, like, heavy book, and it's all been reprinted in these lovely, like, glossy pages, and it's like the first 14 volumes or something ridiculous of Saga. And so the second volume of that has been released recently, early on in the year, so that's sort of high up on my wish list of because that story is just incredible. I think it's some of Brian K. Vaughan's best work after Why the Last Man, but because I've got the first volume, now I've got to have the second volume, and I couldn't just start buying all the individual, like, trade paperbacks again. So yeah, so hopefully maybe that for Christmas.
You could just do that, or I'll just release the podcast as quickly as possible, and then what you could do is you just tell your other half, go and just listen to this before you go to sleep. I know it's me talking, but there's an important bit at the end I'd like you to listen to, and by the time she gets to the point where she's drifting off, you could just say now, bye, Saga.
In my other comic wish list, I've had some of the Preacher trade paperbacks in there for ages. Mm-hmm. I bought the first 2 Preacher books and love them, and then since then I just haven't kept on. Like, it's been so long since I last bought a Preacher book. They've actually reissued and restructured a lot of the trade paperbacks. But that is one series that I I would love to get back into again. And then, what else is in here? In terms of like board game wish lists, there's nothing that I mentioned. V Commandos, and I've got a couple of like Number 9 and Fungi.
Oh yeah,
just a couple of like sort of relatively cheap sort of games, just to like if I ever see them like drop in price, then I'll pick them up. But
cool.
Other than that, like I'm pretty happy with what I've got going on. Like, what about you?
Oh, I have. I want some expansions for Ashes, pretty much.
Ah, right, okay.
That's right. That'll keep me happy. Heroes of Land, Air and Sea, if you're listening. Gameland Games, please come on the show and then just tell me, that you're never gonna send me a copy of that game. Seafall, because it's like buying. It's like when you're not feeling well and you want to watch some crap TV. It's like Murder, She Wrote's on. You've got a cup of tea and you're sitting with a blanket wrapped around you. Just like, I'll just watch Jessica Fletcher. I think you'd watch Jessica Fletcher, Murder, She Wrote, while wrapped around in a blanket, and you'd crack open a game of Seafall and see how that went as well at the same time. I think that would be a fantastic, just a fun. And 25 quid, I could go and get a Chinese meal and it would be gone within a couple of days eventually.
But like we're the same with the other thing that's on my list is that I keep in there is just as many of the expansions for the Arkham Horror card game that have been released, because that game is just utterly ridiculously fun. We did one a couple of days ago which is called the Essex County Express, and it was on a train.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever played the Arkham Horror card game, but it's a card game. So the environments that you the environments that you explore are just depicted on cards. So when your investigator goes to a new location, you flip over the card and you can do stuff at that location, and it tells you what other locations are linked with it. But they do some really just interesting things, Fantasy Flight, with the locations they pick and how the cards are laid out. So we just did one that's on a train. So all the location cards were in a row. So you had all like the cars of the train, then you had like the engine, and it was a portal and a sort of mysterious Cthulhu-esque portal had opened up at the rear of the train, and basically all the rear coaches were getting sucked up inside it. So we had to, like, as a race against time, had to move our way along the train to get into the engine car in order to complete that scenario. And it was just absolutely bonkers. Like, I'm playing a jazz musician who just, like how I role play it at various times, he just sort of like starts sitting there going. He's got a power where he can just heal people with some of his tunes. He's just like, it's like, I'm feeling lots better now, Jim. Thanks. And Chris is playing this like Agent Carter-esque.
You've set the dog off.
I set the dog off with my bad mouth trumpeting.
He set the dog off.
But yeah, in terms of next year, just getting more of those expansions done.
Yeah.
Would be wonderful. Sorry, Poppy. It's just my mouth. She understands that.
Oh dear. Thank you for coming back on. It's been an absolute pleasure. If people want to hear you on the internet webs, where can we find you on the internet webs, Mr. Sam Turner?
You can find me at the Staying In podcast. So wherever you're listening to this on, you will also be able to find the Staying In podcast. At Staying In Pod on Twitter. I'm at Mr. Sam Turner on Twitter, which really all I do is just tweet about games I've been playing and the Staying In podcast. So it's pretty much
which is absolutely thoroughly worthwhile listening to. It's absolutely
Thank you.
Fantastic. I love it a lot.
The dog loves it.
Yes, absolutely. They definitely do. I think I'm going to have to do a Staying In ending.
Okay,
because we did a Staying In beginning. I'll just do the cut when I go. Just listen, okay? Okay. I've got my glass again, okay? Right, ready. I'm just gonna. And that was We're Not Wizards with Richard Simpson and guest Sam Turner. If you have enjoyed the show this evening, please feel free to check us out on the podcast catcher where you get your podcasts and leave us a rating or review. Otherwise, if you'd like to tell somebody that maybe hasn't listened to the show before to drop us a listen, that would be appreciated. If you've got any questions for the show, you can email us on magic@we'renotwizards, or you can check us out on our website, which is we'renotwizards.com, we'renotwizards.blogspot.com, and you can also check us through Twitter and Facebook if you search for We're Not Wizards. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Brilliant.
See,
fantastic.
Like
Professional.
There you go. Fantastic. Okay. Say goodbye, Sam.
Goodbye.
And that's a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.